actually right next door, intercontinental developers created water place residences, and they wanted to add public artwork to the focal point of their central drive. They worked with Sunny Savage Gallery to get corporate artwork onto their development property. They were committed to working with me, and I started coming up with some design ideas. I was looking at the direction of Wave Traveler, considering it's called Water Place. I was also looking at the pattern a wave makes, but also sound waves, connectors, things that connect you and me, sound, talk, discussion. This was one of the ideas that I presented, and they were very eager to go forward with this. I dropped the steel model into Photoshop so that they could see what it would look like, and I wanted the design to connect to the community as well, so it has that upward stare. This is the second iteration of the model, and I also wanted to add this floorboard pattern onto one side. And with the drawing, I was able to convey the floorboard idea. It's also part of the idea of connectors. The floor is connecting you to me. So I worked with Dave Sitnick to create the sculpture onto a 3D program on the computer so we could get it just so. And then he actually was able to take every piece and on a 78-page document, name and label every piece for fabrication plans. I also worked with the structural engineer who made sure that the structural integrity of the whole piece would work so that you could all climb on it, or that the wind loads could handle the 3 tons of stainless steel. So this is the 6th structural engineer plan. Every piece was cut. These are the edges. These are really thick 1/4-inch stainless steel plate that was cut by a water jet cutter up in Attleboro. And this was all of the parts that were then delivered to be fabricated. The skin of the piece is thinner metal, and those were rolled down in Newport to be the skin of the whole sculpture. And with every part of the sculpture, there was the loading and unloading, and I was there for all of that. The piece was fabricated at KO Steel in North Scituate, and the guys received each part and they began fabricating. So the edges that I talked about before held up the piece, and then they're held up with 1-inch square tube that is important for the floorboards. The square tube, I riveted in the floorboards, and I created the floorboards in my studio. I kept 7 of the sheets of rolled stainless, and I fabricated all of the floorboards, drilled holes, and meanwhile, the rest of the sculpture is being fabricated. And they always had the model on hand, they had the fabrication drawings, everything went very smoothly, and then we get to the very top. Brian and Alan worked really hard to get each and every compound curve just so, and it ended up looking great. But meanwhile, I'm working with another engineer to engineer the base of the sculpture. The pad was excavated, and this was the siding was decided. This is a bunch of concrete and then 20 J-bolts that will attach the sculpture to the site. This shows the scale of the sculpture, and it's almost complete, so it was a very exciting weekend. I was going in on the weekends with many different assistants to line up all of the holes where the square tube received holes for the floorboards that got riveted in. There are over 700 rivets on this sculpture, and this shows the running floorboard pattern being added on. And my husband was employed all the time. We then loaded the piece. Getting the piece up onto the rigging took over 4 hours, and it was funny because you would look at the door and you you'd say, no way that piece is getting out of here. But it slid right out like a brand new baby. It was a good day. This was exciting because this is the first time I had an oversized load. I got to see the sign on my sculpture, and I didn't get to witness it driving down the interstate, but I'm sure there were some heads being turned as they saw it coming to town. So as you saw in every picture, it was built on its side, so I never saw the piece standing up until it was craned into sight. So this was a very intense moment as it was being lifted up by this crane. The installation was about 8 hours, so it wasn't a really, really long day, but very intense. Making sure that all 20 holes lined up is a nail-biting moment, but they did line up, so that means that I did my homework. And also the floorboards were left off so that I could access the bolts. And then we had the unveiling. So everything went according to plan, and I thought if I got the smallest person to stand next to it, the sculpture would look really big. The Water Place hosted a great unveiling. The piece is right next door, so if you haven't seen it, you can literally walk right over and see it. I'd like to introduce Wave Traveler. Stainless steel, it's 18 feet tall by 13 feet wide by 5 feet deep, and that's the design and installation of Wave Traveler.